The auction hall is cold and bright, with metal walls and strange blue lights blinking everywhere. Many aliens from different planets sit in their seats, waiting for the next item. Some are rich and wear golden robes, while others are big and dangerous. With sharp teeth and red eyes, the air is full of noise and the smell of oil and fury. Loud robotic voice echoes in the hall. Next item for sale, says the voice. One Xelerian female and her child, broken condition. No skills, no husband, no home. Starting. Bid 0 credits. 2 tall guards bring her to the stage. She walks slowly with her head down. Her skin is a soft silver color and her eyes are empty, like she has cried too much. Her small child is in her arms, silent and holding her tight. The child is shaking but makes no sound. The crowd starts to laugh. One alien with 6 arms says she is useless. Another one says not even worth a scrap. A third says throw her out and bring something better. No one wants her. No one bids. No one looks at her. With kindness, she stands there still like a statue. She knows what will happen. She has seen others like her. When no one bids, they are sent away to the mines or to the labs or worse. But she does not cry. She just holds her child tighter and waits. Then a voice comes from the back of the hall. It is not loud, but it is clear. I will take her, says the voice. Everyone turns. It is a human. One simple human wearing an old jacket and boots covered in dust. He walks slowly to the front. No weapon, no guard. Just a small ID chip in his hand. The auctioneer looks confused. You offer what, says the robot voice. The human says, I offer my name. Gasps fill the room. Some laugh, some shout. What kind of offer is that? Names are not currency. Names mean nothing here, but... The auctioneer checks the rules, and the rulebook says a legal transfer of name is a valid offer for broken beings. It has not happened in years, but it is allowed. Do you accept full responsibility? Asks the robot voice. Yes, says the human. Do you understand she is not normal? She has no planet, she has no record, she has no voice. The human nods. Then take her, says the robot. Transfer complete. You are now responsible for subject 4417 and minor. The alien mother looks at him. She does not speak. She does not trust, but she moves when he reaches out his hand. She takes a step forward. Then another. Then she is standing in front of him. He looks at her and says, you are safe now. She looks down and nods. The guards release her and the child. The human turns and walks. She follows. Her bare feet make no sound on the metal floor. The child holds her neck tightly, but peeks over her shoulder at the strange human, who just gave them a name. Outside the auction hall, the stars shine cold in the sky. The human walks toward a small ship, not big, not clean, but real. He opens the door, lets her in and starts the engine inside. The ship. He gives her a blanket and water. The child drinks first. Then she takes a sip. Still no words. He sits across from them and watches quietly. After some time she speaks, only 2 words. Why me? The human looks at her and says, because no one else did. Then he leans back in his chair and closes his eyes. The ship moves forward through space. 1 human, 1 broken alien mother, and 1 silent child heading to a place that is not a home yet, but might be someday. The ship moves slowly through the black sky, with stars watching from every side, like silent witnesses to an impossible event. Inside the ship, the air is quiet, with only the hum of the engine filling the silence between 3 lives that have just been tied together by a name. The human man named Joran sits in the pilot seat, not looking back, but thinking. Behind him, the alien mother sits holding her child close, her silver hands wrapped around the small body like armor made of flesh and love. The child sleeps in her arms, breathing soft and slow, like he knows for the first time. There is no danger outside the walls of this ship. Joran opens a small drawer near the control panel and takes out a thin crystal tablet. He scans his ID on it and then places it on the table near her. The tablet glows blue and a legal voice speaks from it. Initiating name transfer contract, clause 47C of Galactic Welfare Law. You, Joran Halst, offer your name and protection to subject 4417 and minor. Do you accept this legal bond? The mother stares at it without answering. The voice repeats. Do you accept this legal bond? She looks at Joran. He looks back with eyes that are tired but not cruel. She nods once. Yes, she says. The voice replies, confirmed. Ship beeps softly as the contract is sealed. The names of the two aliens are now linked to his. Their data is hidden. Their rights are real. No one can buy them again. No one can take them again. They are no longer items. They are people, legally protected under Joran's identity. The ship lands on a quiet planet with red trees and slow winds. It is not a rich world, but it is free. Joran walks ahead and she follows, still holding the child. They reach a small house made of old stone and metal panels. There is no gate, no guard, no luxury, but there is peace inside. The house, there is one room with a soft bed and one window where the sunlight touches the floor like gold. Joran points. This is yours now. She nods again without speaking. She lays the child down and looks at the walls. Simple, safe, strange. At night the silence is different. It is not empty. It is full of breathing, soft sounds, the small movements of life without fear. Joran sits by a fire outside. The wind touches his hair. He holds a picture in his hand. It is an old photo, a woman with dark hair and a child with bright eyes. Gone now, lost long ago. Behind him the door opens. She steps outside. Without sound, stands near him, but not too close. He says nothing. She says nothing. Then, after a while, she speaks. Not all humans are kind. He nods slowly. I know. She asks, why did this for you? Thinks for a long time. Then says, because I could, because no one else did, because maybe saving someone makes me feel human again. She watches the fire. Its light dances in her silver eyes. The child comes out sleepy, rubbing his eyes, sees Joran, walks to him, and sits beside him. No words, just trust. Morning comes. With soft light, Joran takes them to the colony office. The people there look at them with curiosity. Whispers pass from mouth to mouth. That's the man who adopted a broken Xelerian. Is he crazy? Is he desperate? Is it even legal? But no one stops him. The clerk scans the ID. Everything is real. Everything is done outside the office. A woman stops Joran. She is tall with sharp eyes. You don't know what she is, she says. You don't know what you've brought into your home. Joran looks at the alien mother beside him. She stands tall now, not proud, but not broken. He says she is family now and walks away. Back at the house, she helps prepare food. She does not know how to use the tools, but she learns fast. The child laughs when she drops flour on the floor. Joran smiles quietly. Later that evening, she sits at the table across from him. She says, you gave us your name, but I do not know what it means. He says, it means you belong somewhere. It means you are not alone anymore. It means you are not property. You are people. She whispers, people, like tasting a new word for the first time. Night falls again. This time the fire is warmer. This time the silence feels like home. Sky is soft and orange as the sun rises over the red trees of the quiet colony. Birds with 6 wings fly in circles above the field where dry wind moves the grass like slow waves. Inside the small stone house, the child wakes up first, his small silver eyes blinking in the warm light. He looks around the room, quiet and calm, and then sees the strange machine in the corner and walks toward it on tiny bare feet. He presses a button and music starts playing, low and sweet like a lullaby from another time. The mother opens her eyes slowly and sees him swaying to the fangua sound, not dancing, just moving with the rhythm, like his body remembers something happy from long ago. Joran is already outside lifting old tools from the shed, placing seeds into the soil step by step with strong hands and a mind that never rests. He hears the music and smiles just a little. The same song his own daughter loved before the war, before the silence, before he became a man who gave names instead of goodbyes. The mother watches the child, then walks to the door, stands there without speaking for a while, then steps out and walks slowly toward Joran. She carries a bowl in her hands with cut roots and water, trying to help, trying to learn what humans eat, what humans grow, how humans survive in places that feel like nowhere. He takes the bowl, nods his thanks, and shows her how to press the soil with her fingers. How to give water not too much, not too little, how to feel the weight of growth in her palms. She kneels beside him and copies his motion with care and patience. The child runs between the rows laughing as a butterfly lands on his hand and flies away. Later inside the house, Joran opens a book and sets it on the table. He points to the pictures and speaks slowly, apple tree, sky, home. The child watches and repeats the sounds with his soft voice, not perfect but brave. The mother listens from the corner, her arms around her knees, her eyes focused and deep like oceans that once drowned but now float again. One word becomes two, then three, then many. The child starts to point at things and name them with joy, and the sound of his learning fills the small house like sunlight through broken windows. That night, as stars return to the sky, the mother stands by the window watching the dark shapes of the hills, watching the shadows move slowly with the wind. She speaks without turning, her voice low and steady. He is learning fast, Joran replies from the chair by the fire. Children do, she says. I never learned your language. I only heard it when they shouted or whispered. Before pain came, Joran says this house has no shouting, no pain, only names and fire and food. She walks to the table and touches the book with one finger. What does this word mean, she asks. He looks at the page. The word is safe, he answers. It means no one will take you. It means the door stays closed unless you open it. It means sleep without fear. She looks at him and whispers safe. For a moment the silence holds them both like a soft blanket, not heavy, not cold, just enough. The child comes running, holding a small drawing made with a broken pen, lines and colors wild and bright. He shows it to them proudly and says, family. The mother looks at the drawing, sees three shapes, one tall, one small, one with silver hair. She stares at it long, then looks at Joran and nods. That night she cannot sleep, not because of fear, but because her mind is full of new sounds and old memories. She remembers her mate who died protecting rebels who believed in peace. She remembers her own voice raised in song before the war, before the slave ships, before the auction. She remembers who she was and wonders who she might become now. Morning comes with fog and cold air. She wakes early and steps outside where Joran is fixing the broken water pipe. She walks to him, stands for a long moment, and then says, teach me. He turns surprised but pleased and asks, teach you what? She answers, your words, your tools, your way of living. Joran nods and begins. He shows her the wrench, how to turn it left and right, how to feel the pressure, how to listen when metal sings. He speaks slowly, repeating each word until she repeats it back. She learns fast, faster than he expected. Child joins them, handing tools, asking questions, naming everything with joy. The pipe is fixed, the water flows again, and for the first time laughter fills the air. That evening the three sit together near the fire, the child asleep across their laps. The mother says, I do not know my last name. Our people did not use names like yours. Joran replies, then choose one or take mine. She looks into the fire and says nothing for a while. Then softly she says, maybe one day. The wind howls outside, but inside the house the air is calm. The floor warm, the silence peaceful, not empty, not anymore. The sky was dark with no stars that night, as if the universe had turned its face away from one small quiet world. The wind moved fast through the trees like a whisper warning of something unseen, something forgotten, something near. Inside the house the child slept on the floor next to the fire, wrapped in a soft blanket, his small hands curled like petals after rain. The mother sat by the window, her silver eyes watching the hills in the distance where a light blinked once then vanished. She did not speak, but Joran knew something was wrong. He could feel it in the way she held her breath, in the way her hands stayed still too long, in the way her body leaned forward like a soldier. Before battle he walked to her, stood beside her, looked at the same hills, but saw only dark. He asked, what is it? And she said only one word. Then Joran felt his chest grow heavy, as if the air had turned into stone. He asked how, and she whispered, they always find those who run too far. She said there is a price on her head, not because of who she is now, but because of who she used to be. Her mate was not just a rebel, but a leader, a voice of change, a symbol of resistance. When he died, they wanted Her too, not because they feared her, but because they feared hope. They wanted her erased, so others would forget the fire he started. But she escaped with a child in her arms, and silence in her heart. Joran did not ask more. He walked outside into the cold and stood under the sky where no stars watched and no gods listened. He thought of war, of loss, of how many times he had seen men chase ghosts and call it justice. Then he went back inside and locked the door. The next morning they began to prepare. Joran opened the old chest near the wall and took out weapons dusty and silent, like sleeping beasts. He handed her a blade light and sharp, forged in earth steel. She took it without question and checked the edge with steady fingers. No fear in her eyes, only memory. The child asked why, and they told him it was a game. He smiled and ran outside, not knowing the wind was different today, not knowing that some games end with silence instead of laughter. By evening the shadows grew longer, and the blinking light on the hill returned. Joran stood on the roof, scanning the horizon, while the mother placed traps near the fields with wire and light. Bombs she built from old parts and clever hands. The sun dipped low, turning the sky red, like blood, like warning, like fate. Then they came. 2 ships, dark and sharp like knives, landed beyond the trees. 6 figures stepped out, tall and armored, their faces hidden behind black masks, their weapons glowing with blue fire. They moved like machines, like predators with one purpose and no mercy. They did not speak. They scanned the area and began to walk toward the house. Irene waited behind the gate, crouched low, rifle in hand, heart beating slow but strong. The mother hid near the garden, holding her blade, her eyes fixed, her breath calm. The child was hidden beneath the floor, wrapped in silence. The first enemy stepped onto the trap and the ground lit up, throwing him back with a scream of metal and sparks. The others split and attacked from both sides. Joran fired, hitting one in the chest. The body dropped, but the armor took most of it. Another came close, and Joran fought hand to hand, fists meeting steel, until the man fell into the wire fence and did not rise again. Near the field the mother moved like wind, like shadow, like death. She cut through one soldier with speed and fury, her blade dancing in circles of silver and red. The 5th attacker cornered her near the shed and fired, but missed. She lipped and brought the blade down, and the field went silent again. Only one left. He stepped inside the house, breaking the door, looking for the child. Joran ran in, saw the man reaching down toward the floor. He shouted, and the man turned. The mother followed, her blade ready, but the child rose first. From the trapdoor, he threw a small spark grenade. He had seen his mother build. The light flashed, and the man fell. Silent, stillness, breath. The mother ran to the child and held him close. Joran stood beside them, eyes scanning for more, but there were no more. The danger was gone. For now that night they buried the attackers far from the house. No names, no prayers, just dirt and distance. Joran sat by the fire, cleaning his weapon. The mother sat across from him, her arm around the child, who now slept again without fear. She looked at Joran and said, "Thank you." He said, "You fought. You protected." She said, "So did you." Wind outside was slower. Now the stars returned. The sky no longer empty. Morning came with a quiet sky and soft air, as if the world had taken a breath after holding it for too long. The soil outside the house still carried marks of battle. Crushed grass, burned edges, silent reminders of the night when danger knocked and did not win. Inside the house the air was warmer, filled with the soft hum of repair tools and the calm rhythm of 3 people moving through the small space like they belonged there. Joran fixed the door with strong hands and careful focus, each nail placed with care, each board set without hurry. The mother stood beside him, holding tools, passing them without being asked, her hands steady, her eyes clear. There was no fear in her now, not the kind that hides in the corners, not the kind that flinches when someone stands too fast. The child played near the window, drawing pictures in the dust with a stick. He drew stars and ships and people. 3 people, always 3. One tall, one small, one silver. Joran saw the drawing and smiled. The mother saw the smile and said nothing, but her eyes softened like ice melting in spring. In the days that followed, the routine became life. Joran taught them how to plant the seeds that grew in red soil, how to fix the solar panels. When clouds blocked the sky, how to build things that lasted longer. Then Fear, the mother, began to teach too. She showed Joran how to sharpen blades without heat, how to track movement in the woods by the shape of broken leaves, how to use silence as a shield. She taught the child her language, a soft sound full of light and flow, and the child mixed both tongues into one that danced in the house like music made of earth and stars. The neighbors still watched from a distance, curious but unsure. They whispered names like alien wife, stolen soldier, broken blood. Joran did not answer. The mother did not care. The child just waved when someone stared one. Evening, after the garden was watered and the tools were cleaned, the child climbed onto Joran's lap and asked the question that had been growing quietly. "Are you my papa?" Joran looked at him for a long moment, his hand resting on the boy's back, his breath deep and full. He did not say yes, he did not say no. He said, "I am here and I am staying," and the child smiled because that was enough. Heard from the next room and did not move for a long time. Then she walked outside and stood under the night sky, where stars blinked like old memories. She remembered her mate, remembered his voice, remembered his death. Then she remembered Joran. Not his voice but his silence, not his strength but his staying. She returned inside and found him near the fire fixing the old kettle. She sat down across from him and said, "He sees you as his father." Joran nodded once. He said, "I do not know how to be one." She said, "You already are." From that night something changed, not in words, not in looks, but in the space between them. That space became smaller. One morning she made tea with human leaves and alien spices. Joran took a sip and raised his eyebrows. She laughed for the first time, a soft sound, small but real. And the child clapped and said, more. The sound of her laugh returned again over the next days like a song remembered, note by note. She laughed when Joran dropped eggs. She laughed when the child wore his shirt backward all day. She laughed when the goat from the neighbor's farm wandered into the kitchen. Laughter became part of the walls, part of the wind, part of the name she had not yet taken, but already felt. One afternoon a letter arrived by drone. It came from the Central Registry, a formal request, a question. "Do you wish to register new legal status for subject 4417 in minor under Human Household Protocol?" Joran placed the letter on the table and looked at her. She looked at it without fear, without question. She said, "Not yet. I want to earn the name before I wear it." Joran nodded. "You already have that." Night they sat outside near the fire, the child asleep with a small toy made from wires and string. The mother looked at Joran and said, "I used to believe that survival was enough. Now I believe in living." "That is because of you." Joran shook his head. "No," he said. "That is because of us." The stars above were bright and quiet. No ships, no shadows, only peace. Not forever, but for now. Inside the house the kettle whistled. The wind passed gently through the trees, and trust filled the spaces where silence once lived. The morning air was colder than usual, as if the sky itself was unsure of what kind of day it wanted to be. Clouds moved slowly like quiet thoughts across a heavy sky, while the wind whispered between the trees without asking permission. Inside the house the mother stood near the table with her hand resting gently on the letter that had arrived with a red seal and an official mark from the Central Human Command. Joran had already read it, but he stood silent by the window, his eyes watching the hills that no longer held enemies but still held memories. The child sat on the floor with pieces of wire building something with no name, a shape born only from imagination. He hummed softly to himself, not knowing that the world was about to ask his family for something no child should have to carry. The letter said the government wanted to meet. They had seen the adoption file. They had heard the reports. They knew who the mother was before her name had been wiped clean by ownership and silence. They knew she once stood beside a rebel who challenged power. They knew her voice once led others toward freedom. They did not care that she had bled. They did not care that she had knelt. They only saw a symbol they thought was theirs to manage. Joran turned to her and asked, "Do you want to go?" She said, "I will go if you come with me." So they went. The building was tall and cold, with gray walls and silver lights that buzzed even when no one spoke. A man waited for them in a suit that fit too well and a smile that did not. He said, "We offer you a chance." He said, "You can live freely. If you return to us what you know." He said, "You can keep the child in your arms if you sign this paper and say you were wrong to run." He said many things. The mother listened without blinking. Joran stood beside her, his face made of stone, but his hand gently touching her back. She asked, "And if I say no?" The man in the suit smiled wider, but his eyes did not. He said, "Then we remove protection. We undo the contract. We let the galaxy decide what happens to an illegal family living under stolen peace." The mother looked at the child who sat in the corner, unaware, drawing stars on a paper napkin. She looked at Joran, who had once given her a name when she was worth nothing. She looked at her own hands, no longer shaking, no longer chained. She said, "I will give you nothing. I will sign nothing. I will not lie to buy my breath." The man stood slowly, his smile gone, his eyes sharp like ice. He said, "Then you are on your own." She nodded once. "We always were." Back at the house, the sky was darker, but the air was clearer. The child ran through the field chasing a paper kite made from old cloth and strong string. Joran sat by the fence fixing a broken post. The mother stood at the door, watching both of them, her body tired, but her spirit tall. That night, they sat together by the fire with silence between them, not heavy but full. The child fell asleep with his head on Joran's arm and his hand on the mother's leg. Joran said, "They will come again," she said. "Then we will stand again." He said, "You could leave. Go far, hide on a forgotten moon. No one would find you." She looked at him for a long time. Then she said, "You gave me a name when I had no voice. Now I speak with it. I will not run." The choice was made, not with fire, not with force, not with fear, but with faith. Faith in the ground beneath their feet. Faith in the people they had become. Faith in a life built with quiet love instead of loud pain. In the morning, Joran placed a shield grid around the field using old tech and new tricks. The mother trained with her blade, teaching the child how to move, how to think, how to listen to silence. Not because they wanted to fight, but because they would not kneel. The neighbors saw and asked questions. Some were afraid, some were angry, but some came closer and said, "What can we do?" Joran said, "Stand with us when the time comes." And they said, "We will." Evening came again, with soft light and slow wind. The child sat between them, reading from a book in 2 languages, laughing when the words tangled together. Mother leaned her head on Joran's shoulder for the first time, not by mistake, not by accident, but by choice. Outside, the stars blinked. The air was cold. The fire was warm. The family was whole. The wind carried a different sound that morning, not the rustle of leaves, not the cry of birds, not the hum of machines, but something deeper, something heavy, something waiting. The sun rose slowly behind a layer of gray clouds, as if the sky itself was unsure whether to shine or hide inside the house. The mother stood by the window, her hands resting on the frame, her eyes watching the horizon where the line between peace and war had started to blur. Joran packed a small bag, placing inside it tools, ammo, water maps, not because he wanted to go, but because he knew waiting without preparation was just another kind of surrender. The child sat on the floor, drawing circles and stars and small houses with tall figures holding hands. He hummed softly and looked up every now and then with eyes that still trusted the world to stay kind. The mother walked over and knelt beside him, brushing a strand of his silver hair behind his ear, then kissed the top of his head. Her breath trembled, but her hand did not. Joran checked the perimeter, then walked back in his boots, carrying red dust and old footsteps. "They will come today," he said. She nodded once, her face unreadable, but her heart loud. "How many?" he asked. 3 ships, maybe 4, maybe more." She said, "They do not want me. They want to make a point." The people of the colony had gathered by the outer wall. Some carried tools, others carried old weapons. Some just brought hands willing to help. No speeches, no flags, no orders, just presence, just choice, just standing. The mother stepped outside with Joran by her side and the child between them. She looked at the people and said nothing. She only stood, and they stood with her. The ships came just before noon, loud and angry. Dark shapes in the sky like thunder made solid. They landed just beyond the field. Burning the grass and shaking the ground, armored figures stepped out, weapons. Drawn voices, cold eyes hidden behind masks that never blinked. One of them walked forward and said, "Return with us now, and no one gets hurt." Joran raised his rifle. The colony raised their tools. The child hid behind the fence, but his eyes stayed open, his hands gripping the edge like a boy who refused to be afraid. The mother walked forward alone. She said, "You came for my silence, but I found my voice. You came for my fear. But I have none left. You came for a name that was never yours to claim." The soldier said, "You are property of the Central Order," she said. "No, I am Lyra Reynolds. I chose that name, I earned that name. It was given to me not with chains, but with care." Then the first shot came, it missed, then another, and the fight began. Dust flew, voices rose, blades clashed. Light burned across the sky. Joran fought beside the gate, moving with precision, taught by pain and memory. The mother moved like wind cutting through the armored line with skill that came not from rage but from purpose. The colony fought not like warriors but like people who had something worth holding. The child stayed hidden until one of the soldiers broke through and came toward the house. Then he ran. He threw a flash pellet and shouted for help. The neighbor reached in time and dragged the soldier back into the field where the others waited. Battle did not last hours, but it felt like years. When the smoke cleared, only the sky remained silent. The attackers were gone, some dead, some captured, some running. The house still stood, the people still stood, the family still stood. Later, as the sun fell behind the hills and stars returned without fear, Joran sat with the child on one side and the Lyra on the other. He handed her a thin piece of metal. It was a nameplate, simple, clean. "Reynolds," she said, "this is not mine anymore. It is ours. If you want it." She took it in her hand, felt its weight not in grams, but in meaning. Then she said, "I want to sign it." "For real?" Joran nodded and opened the datapad. "Lyra Reynolds," she wrote, then handed it to the child, who smiled and wrote, "Taro Reynolds." The house had no flags, no music, no fireworks, but it had names. Chosen names, earned names. Names that no one could auction or erase. Later that night, Joran stood outside alone for a moment. He looked at the stars and whispered, "Thank you, not to the sky, not to any god, but to the moment that broke him and the people who helped him rebuild inside." The house. Lyra placed the nameplate above the door, then joined her family near the fire. No more hiding, no more silence, only stories and the name they now shared.